To what extent do you think Gordon can, claim credit for having done that?
Okay, yeah, I'm going to come back from the second that because I was just going to try and destroy my reputation for going on endlessly by coming to a conclusion on that. The comparison with 1992 is, I think, evident to everybody. That there is a mood of ennui, there's a general mood of desiring change, and that left to itself would probably simply bring a kind of parliamentary swing door, with the Conservatives elected with not a huge majority, but certainly a working majority. What has intervened dramatically and has been responsible for turning around people's opinion is that they've heeded the appeal that Gordon made a few weeks ago, that people should take a second look at the Conservatives and at the Labour Party, and a long, hard look at the Conservatives, and answer for themselves the question, given the conditions in which we find ourselves, which party, which leadership is most capable of securing continuity and providing reassurance in the midst of very severe economic storms. And the answer people are coming up with, and some of you will know this from canvassing, as I've witnessed it in the campaigning I've done up and down the country, is that they are more and more inclined to accept the experience as well as the intelligence and guts that's been shown by Gordon, by Alistair, by the Labour government, than to take a chance on someone whose whole reputation and standing politically has been built on superficialities. That is to say, Mr. Cameron, who I cannot omit to describe every time I think of his name as someone who deep down is very, very shallow. And the same applies to the person who, whatever would happen after a Conservative electoral victory, is the person who will be most responsible for arguing their economic case between now and election day, and that is George Osborne. And he, I fully believe, will utterly fail to convince the country. So the reputation is of a country which, when it faces the choice in the ballot box, will vote for experience, reassurance, continuity in very difficult economic circumstances. And that will, I think, make the provision against Labour defeat. And I think as the election closes and the arguments get tighter and the examination of alternative policies gets deeper and sharper, as surely it must do, because thus far the Tories have had virtually a bye so far as most broadcast journalists are concerned. As that occurs, the prospects of a Labour election victory grow as the prospects for Conservative election victory grew in 1992. On the point that you raised, Una, there is any amount of acknowledgement internationally of the unique role played by Gordon Brown, not only in responding to a deep recession arising from a global financial crisis, but also acknowledgement of the way in which he led, induced, encouraged, cajoled numberless other countries into following exactly the same, for want of a better phrase, Keynesian response to the recession. The consequence is, using the argument that he deployed, that the more everybody does, the least anyone has to do, was an argument accepted from Washington to Tokyo to Paris to Berlin. And the difficulty that our campaigners have experienced is not in collecting and collating the applause, the commendation that's come from international leaders, both political and economic, Nobel laureates and commentators of international repute, giving full credit to Gordon Brown for the way in which he not only responded as a national leader, but showed his true mettle as an international leader. The difficulty that's been experienced is in getting that picked up and used by the British media in the way in which I think Gordon Brown deserves. I speak to people who've been colleagues of mine, some of them before I went to the European Commission, others that I discovered, and we've nourished friendships ever since, who keep on saying to me, Nordics, French, Belgians, Italians, who keep on saying to me, why is it that our newspapers are prepared to acknowledge the unique contribution made by your Prime Minister, and your own newspapers appear to be blind to it? And I said, well, that's how we define the freedom of the press in the United Kingdom. On the right, they're spiteful bastards in any case. And on the left, they are so dilettante that the last thing they're going to do until election day is give credit to any Labour government for doing anything. Come the day, I can name them now, they will line up and they will say, better the devil. They will find plausible, progressive reasons for saying Labour must get an extra term. What has been lacking, in some cases poisonously so, over the months leading up to this, is a willingness to show the same degree of reserved commitment, I ask for no more, to the Labour cause that in similar circumstances the Telegraph and the Mail and indeed the Sun would show to the Tory cause. That's where the imbalance gets even more chronic and even more damaging. But we've won elections before without their particular assistance. I think this is going to be another similar occasion.
Thank you for that, Neil. That's